Go ahead, Denise.
Not at all. And Jim, you can tell me how I'm doing for time, but I was just going to introduce the exercise that I would like you to think about, which is on a piece of paper in front of you, very low prototype here. I'd love you to just draw the model that you see here, the very basic social business model canvas. So draw a little semicircle at the top with social mission, and then a rectangle for social programs and social business. And then in the breakout rooms, I've got some questions on the next slide that I'd like you to think about. Starting with, who are your beneficiaries? Now, ideally, I'd like you to answer them in one sentence. So be very clear, who are they? Describe them as best you can. What do they need? What is your social mission? And I'm borrowing a mission that I actually picked up from someone who's listening, which is Stuart Colson. You'll recognize this. Get Burmese farmers out of poverty. How do you write a succinct social business mission in less than 8 words? Talk about your social programs. What are they? How can you say it clearly for your beneficiaries? And then describe your customers. What do they need? Describe how the social business addresses your need to create tradable income. And then who are your funders? So we're really kind of looking at the beneficiaries, the funders, and the customers, and being very succinct about describing what you do. And that's what I'd like you to do in the breakout. Did I go too fast and speak too quickly with my Irish accent?
I think it's great. What I'll do is in the chat, we'll put in the chat the instructions, and we will also share the link so that this is the slide deck, and you can see the graphic if you need to see it in your breakout room, and draw this simple social business model canvas on paper, answer a few of those questions, but we also want you each to get to know some new people. So spend the first 30-second elevator pitch of the 4 or 5 people in your breakout room. So Elian, we're going
just before we break out, there's a lot of academics in the group, so we have a tendency to talk a lot. You've only got about 7 or 8 minutes in this breakout group, so don't sweat. As I say to my students all the time, perfect is the enemy of done. So rock and roll for 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for your patience and good humor as we all come back into this larger group.
All right, we're good then.
Looks like we're back at about 39 or so, which is about where we started. So welcome back once again. Sorry for the kerfuffle with the technology and the breakout groups. Hope you had a chance or two to at least say hi, hello to folks. Real quick before we hand this off to Nadine, any absolute burning question, any absolute, oh my gosh, I had the most brilliant insight ever that you want to share with the group real quick before we jump in? Feel free to just pop your mic on real fast and throw it out into the universe.
I had one question very specifically.
Yes.
Is this tool for bachelor and master students, or is this broken down for bachelors and then for masters? Because it's pretty dense for a bachelor student.
So it can be applied to any level, to be honest, and again, practitioners. It is quite dense. I have an accompanying website that allows students at whatever level to access resources that supplement as they move around the model. But what I found, because I teach in an undergraduate college, the students, if you break it down, over, if we are teaching it over a semester and you've got 12 weeks to do it, you can actually teach each section as you go along, and it becomes less sort of overwhelming for them, and it starts to build up the model as you go along. But you can do it if you're an MBA. I've taught it with MBA students. I have PhD students working on it, and I've worked a lot in practice. It's based on working with social entrepreneurs in practice primarily.
Wonderful. Thank you, Denise. Yeah, and it's a tool, right? So you have to adapt the tool to whatever use you have. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you. Okay. Nadine, all yours.
Okay, ready to go. Let's go to the next slide. And we can go to the next one. So I have a lot that I have in here, and I'm going to try to be brief, not too fast. I'm a New Yorker. I tend to speak quickly, which might serve me for this today, but you can just, someone put up a hand if I'm going too fast. But I wanted to let you know we have systems change courses. We use them for different audiences, I want to quickly start using some of the information we use in the course to explain why we developed the course as well. So we at the Ashoka Globalizer believe that systems change is really critical for creating long-term lasting impact. And what we normally see happening is that there is a problem like running water and people are using a mop. There's water all over the place and people are mopping it up and mopping it up and mopping it up. And they don't stop to think about, well, what's really happening here. And that there is a system that might be causing all that water to go over the place. And instead of dealing with the symptoms and mopping up that water that just keeps pouring in, we have to fix the system. We have to actually turn off the water spout. So we are really trying to get people out of a mode of quick fixitis and symptoms, tackling symptoms, and really thinking about what are the symptoms that are behind those problems. What are the systems that are behind those problems, and how do we help people to solve those problems by focusing in on those systems? And I think similar to what Denise was saying, we've seen so many materials all around about this, and a lot of them are quite extensive and really good, but perhaps too intense. Our original audience are social entrepreneurs, Ashoka fellows, and they want really practical, easier stuff to deal with. So we took a stab at creating materials that were much more practical, based on cases of Ashoka fellows that people can really engage with. So that is why we developed the course. The next slide. And one of the things that shows up in the course that is important, not just as a piece of the course, but also for our thinking, is that when you are working on systems change and when you are aiming for high level impact, you do not want to rely solely on direct service. You do not want to rely solely on you're going in and doing something and expecting it to take off. You want to maximize your impact by having others engaging with it. So if we look at this chart here, you'll see the blue section is normally what happens in many organizations. They come up with an idea, they replicate it, and they get to a certain point where that blue line ends, where that is the maximum impact they can get if they are doing it on their own. And what we are aiming for is for you to be able to get others on board. How do you create the indirect impact or the catalytic impact, which goes well with Catalyst 2030, of having others on board, engaging with it either through government policy, through networking, through all different sorts of means that will take you to a point where you are creating long-lasting impact, hopefully irreversible, although we've seen in the last few years some of these things that we think are irreversible are not. But definitely get to a certain point. If I use the example of Florence Nightingale, who changed, famous social entrepreneur who changed the way hospitals are run to make sure that sanitation and hygiene are at their utmost. And she did not get, this is the way hospitals now operate, but it didn't happen because she built one hospital after another hospital after another hospital, but rather she created the standards. She created a school. She taught people about this until it took off and it became the new norm. It reached a tipping point. And so we at Globalizer are wanting to walk our talk. We teach this all the time to people, that we've got to aim for that catalytic impact. And we knew that it wasn't enough for us to just work with our group of Ashoka fellows. We needed to create material so that others could engage with it. And therefore, we have this. So this course is part of our walking the talk and sharing this, because we would like this in all sorts of circles for social entrepreneurs to interact with, for students to interact with, etc. It's very much part of the Ashoka everyone a change maker world, to outpace the problems and fix the systems we have. We need more change makers, and we want them to be as well equipped as possible. So what do we have available? We have 3 courses. One is a systems change for beginners course. It's a very quick, it might be something you want to show in a class where maybe you're not focusing on systems change, but you just want to spring interest in people. We have a crash course, which is just 3 modules, very easy to work with, very short kind of videos that you might want to work with. And then we have our masterclass, which is what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. And that is a 9-module course. You can, spread it out over a longer period of time. And I'll get into what that is right now, but I just wanted you to know there's other kind of smaller things in case that's what your appetite is for your classes. Okay, so next slide. So what the course does is that it focuses in, as I mentioned before, on very basic ways of thinking about systems change. And it starts with looking at your problems and breaking it down into the root causes, and then figuring out what are the systems behind those causes, and then how do you map out a strategy that will help you to shift a targeted systems change. And the idea is to be able to build a strategy out of this, but it is not just about building a strategy. It is helping people who engage with this material to actually be able to build up their systems thinking muscles so that they can apply this to each new problem that they would like to tackle. Next. And what specifically we hope participants will take away are a clearly defined systems change goal. We call it their targeted systems change, a list of milestones that will get you there, lots of practical worksheets that you can use to flex those muscles, as I mentioned. There is a pre-designed template so you can have a systems strategy deck afterwards. And we hope that people who engage with this, because it's on a platform where you can interact to a limited extent so far, but we hope to expand that interactivity with others and build a network of allies, or you can use this document and share it with others to help them think about it alongside of you. Next. The course has 9 modules, 8 case studies based on social entrepreneurs from around the globe, and this fully designed strategy deck template. Next. This is the syllabus, and I would say there's a lot around. We really hone in on the problem tree and the root causes, because if you don't get that right, it's hard to do the rest of the work. But we also focus in on the leadership that it takes, and it leads to the quite interesting conversation about what qualities need to be there to think at the systems level, which is quite different than thinking at a very direct service kind of level. How do you fund this kind of work? How do you evaluate if you're doing it well or not? And then, your final assignment. So lots to dig into. I don't know if it was Debbie or someone who said that this course also lends itself to taking it apart. You can use pieces of it. You don't have to run, 9 modules. You can focus in on the problem tree. You can focus in on a milestone map once you know what your systems change goal is. You can talk about partnerships. You can use this to, you can break it apart. And there's lots of tools for you to play with that way. And it is open source. It is free for everyone. And what I was going to say, so it's free for everyone, which is great. And I think those links you can see, you do have to sign up for it, and just so we can be tracking who's engaging with the materials. But we are exploring a program to facilitate the course for instructors alongside students. So maybe, and to get really immersed in this, maybe you grab a few of your students, you come into the program, and this is the kind of the premium version, not the freemium version. But if there is interest, people can contact me to see if they want to be kind of trained up on how to use this alongside some students, so that you're doing it with the student's developing their strategy, their systems change strategy, and then you leave this feeling really comfortable, having worked with other facilitators of this, to repeat it in future rounds with students. Okay. I just want to let you know there's a couple of other courses that we have out. One is how to influence the way people think. It's a mindset shift course, because that's always at the base of most systems change. And then working with government as well. And the links, I think, should be in the chat. And that, I think, is it. I don't know if that was 7 minutes or not. I hope so. Good. Okay.
It was lovely. Thank you.
Great. Good.
Thank you. So we got another breakout group.
We've got another breakout group. These materials, they require a little bit more reflection than this, but we thought, let's just get our feet wet a little bit. So I've shared some sheets that explain to a certain extent how we come about, how we develop this problem tree. And I've just chosen a problem for you. That's a problem that we think about quite a bit in Ashoka. I'm not actually sure what the percentage is, so I just left it blank, but a certain percentage, a very high percentage of US college graduates are not prepared to be active change makers, right? That's a big problem. And the way we state this problem, we've got, if I had the right number, I'd have the right number in there. You need data points, you need a geography to boundaries on it. But what I would like to do, what I would like you to do in the breakout group is not necessarily concentrate on the consequences, although that's a very important piece of this puzzle, in particular for helping you sell why it's important to take a systems change focus. People are going to want to know, what are the consequences if I don't treat this problem, what's going to happen? But that's an easier kind of exercise. Well, no, none of it's easy, but it's a different exercise.
Innovators tools. So Nick, Debbie, all yours.
Great, thank you so much. So Debbie Brock, and I am excited to introduce the Social Change Innovators online knowledge resource portal. Those of you that know about it have been around a while, you've been using it quite a bit. Innovative solutions mainly for teaching. It was originally developed in 2018 by Nick Martin and myself to share the teaching resources. What we've learned over time, we've shared these resources, we've collaborated across our fields with our colleagues, and we've helped to innovate this. What's happened since then is Catalyst 2030 is now partnering with Social Change Innovators, and it has been repositioned for social entrepreneurs, not just for academics. So you'll still see our topics and teaching modules on concepts where you can, if you're teaching a new concept like theory of change or systems thinking, you can go in there. We've curated all the resources available there. And then, so that's now, that's still available, but we're now adding more, enabling the social entrepreneur environment for governments, public sector, etc. I'm going to have Nick introduce you to the site for those that haven't had the chance to use it, and the link is also in there and you can go in and click on that. So Nick.
Hey, good morning, good evening, whatever you are at the moment. So I'm just gonna give you a quick tour through the website. So I hope you can see it at the moment. This is the homepage, and you can see immediately that you can search for different kinds of content. So we have the different kinds of topics that Debbie already introduced to you guys. We also have different kinds of file types. So we don't only have articles, we have presentations, we have different activities that you can do. We have videos, and we also have links to different websites that could be of interest. And of course, you can share by most clicks or newest. So if you just want to look at one example, for example, let's say you're interested into different materials about theory of change, then you can select a topic and you get to a topic overview page, and you can see different kinds of content, popular content, which is sorted by clicks, but you can find different contents like articles, videos, and you can all discover all this kind of materials. So for example, this is a video that was posted by Playing for Social Change, and you find immediately a preview of this file. The great thing about the platform is that you can also participate and contribute to the content of the website. So let's say you know a lot about working with governments and you're an expert in the field, then you can share your own content as well. So then you would just click on share your file, and you could either upload a file or just share a link. After that, you would just be led to an additional form where you could input some information like the title, a description if you want to, and of course the link and the categories, or for example the language, and then you're done. And that way you can share your resources with people all over the world, which is a great opportunity, I would say. As Debbie mentioned, we are adding a lot of different content. So now we added a section on different regions, so we have more content from around the globe. We also want to fill information or fill these kind of sections with more content. And in the future, we're also going to provide more information on events in the scene, also about job opportunities and online courses that you can take to learn more about social innovation. yes, so that was the quick introduction, and then I'm just gonna stop sharing and Debbie can say a couple of more words.
The exciting part of this is we have even more members that are coming on board with Catalyst with the Social Change Innovators platform that are Catalyst 2030 members. In there, there's new content areas. So if you're an expert working with governments, working with the private sector resources, funders or donors, those new modules on enabling environment have been added. So we're also adding regional content. So those that are working in different parts of the world, Sanjay, and with India, we want to have India specific resources. Let's start thinking about, will we have different language resources as well? So those are being populated. So all these new opportunities are coming across the field and we're super excited about it. Yeah, your case studies, local case studies, Chloe, we can add those resources. We can add in policy content. There's a whole lot of new things that's available to share on this site. It's co-created, so remember when you log in and register to like anything that you like. That way it kind of moves up in the rankings. So it's not just the number of people that have accessed it, but it's the number of likes. I know the Ashoka crash course has really high number of links where people have clicked on it and watched it. So that's how we do our rankings. So it's co-created with the members, which is super fun. So register today, share your resources, and back to you, Jim, so we can hear about this new book that you wrote. So tell us more, Jim.
It's great to hold up that short leg on the coffee table, among other things. So about 6 years ago, I had the marvelous opportunity to do a Fulbright and work with Memorial University in Newfoundland to help them develop an MBA in social entrepreneurship. And it was a fantastic experience. And I learned a few things. I learned some things to think about when you're teaching social entrepreneurship and some things to not think about when teaching social entrepreneurship. This is me. I'm also on LinkedIn. I've always got several LinkedIn invitations this morning while we're here. That's lovely. Thank you so much. Happy to do that. So we're going to switch from tools to sort of philosophy here. So one of the things I think that we forget about in teaching social entrepreneurship is the basics of entrepreneurship still apply. So you still have to make sure your students understand things like fail fast and pivot and build models, because models are a lot less expensive and a lot less harmful than actually trying to launch something. We sometimes, especially because we're emotionally connected to this social change, we want to run out and start to save the world right away. And it's like, no. Be an entrepreneur, be smart, be a risk analyst, all that stuff. Another thing you have to remember is that social change is hard. It is really hard and it is really messy. So all of that experimentation that we pull forward from entrepreneurship in general applies doubly here because you've got so many more complex issues to deal with. You have to make sure that you are deeply engaged with the community, that you recognize those assets, and that you involve those assets in the co-creation. Customer discovery is the language we use in commercial entrepreneurship. It applies here easily as well. Social change theory is product design. So think first about what you're trying to change and then use that to help figure out how you're going to change it. Don't think about the change first. Think about how you're going to sort of build this and then deliver a product from there. Measure. Metrics matter. And they need to be outcomes-based metrics, not outputs-based metrics. So much of our work in social change is we serve so many people. That's lovely. But if you really think about it, any social change organization's ultimate goal should be to work itself out of business. Marketing. Marketing is very different in social entrepreneurship because you've got all of the funding sources and each of them has their own interests, right? You've got charitable funding sources that want an emotional appeal. You've got grant makers that want sort of a systems change appeal. You've got investor interests that want return on investment. You've also got all of the people that are supporting your organization. all the volunteer aspects, all the workers, and then you've got your constituents, which are very different. And one of the big changes, and you know this from nonprofit literature, is that the fascinating thing about social enterprise is the person you're trying to help isn't necessarily the person who's buying your product or service. So you've really got to have very, very different pitches and be able to switch back and forth between those. If you only come up with one pitch and you're trying to build a social enterprise, you're going to have a real hard time. One of the biggest questions I get from students a lot is, well, do I go after grants? Well, that depends on what you want to do. That's what I mean by finance follows function, right? So you got to think about what you want to do and then what's the best way to pay for that. Happily, the sort of turf wars about what percent of earned income versus grant income versus charitable income that you have in a social enterprise have mostly settled, not entirely. They're still out there a little bit, but think about what you want to do, then figure out how to pay for it. Also, operating structure, same thing. And then one of the ones that I think is the most interesting to play with, you know, academics, particular deans, provosts, they love it when you say this is an interdisciplinary undertaking. I would submit to you, friends, that social entrepreneurship is not interdisciplinary. Social entrepreneurship is extra-disciplinary, by which I mean that we take all these different disciplines and we combine them, but the whole that we're creating is something that's new and different and doesn't fit within a lot of those boxes. And then last but not least, and again, we know this from entrepreneurship, experiential learning is critical. Can we get the next? There we go. Okay. Things not to think about. Please, please, please stop worrying about whether or not it needs to be a nonprofit, a for-profit, a social benefit organization, a B Corp, an S Corp, a C. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about whether it fits in a specific box. Don't worry about the definitions. Don't worry about who's in and who's out. We just need to build more of these things, and we need to stop worrying about how things happen. We need to stop thinking about social enterprise as a form of nonprofit. It is extra-disciplinary. It is something new. It is something different. So we need to get rid of those mindsets. As a friend of mine who wrote a great book about this calls it begging for change. And by that, he means not just the funding strategy, but also the social change theory. And then last but not least, scale and replication. Every entrepreneur is always, how are we going to scale this? And every grant maker is, how are you going to scale your enterprise? Well, folks, some social change theories are very, very region specific. They work in a certain city or a certain country or a certain community specifically because of what exists in that community and in that context. So they may not be scalable, they may not be replicable, and that's not a bad thing because you're still bringing about substantial change in that community. So Debbie mentioned very kindly that we did put a book together about this. You can get it from Edward Elgar. If you search for Crucial, you'll find the book. There's an author's discount code, which is the first letters of my first name and 35, which is the discount percentage. There are also exam copies available for those of you who have an academic email address. Feel free to go in and ask for that exam copy. That's my story. This is me. Feel free to find me on LinkedIn or anywhere else. Love to have more conversations with anybody who wants to have them. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to go you back into breakout rooms. And again, we apologize for the whipsaw here. I know it's been a little tough with the technology back and forth and in and out and up and down. We may have fixed that for this last breakout round. We may not. We trust your good graces and your kind grace, quite frankly, in allowing this as we bounce around. But we'd love to have you take a few minutes right now to reflect on the tools, the philosophical statements, whatever works for you. Share a few of those, make some notes, and there's a shared Google sheet that you can document in that we'd love to have so that Debbie and her team can curate some of this. And with that, we're going to bounce you back into breakouts one last time.
Session is an hour and 15 minutes, so we can stay with you longer if you need be, but this is a 3-part session. So the next session is on September 22nd with Rana Dajani with We Love Reading, Browland with the University of Oxford, and they're mapping the system and her impact lab. and Mai Tai with Montreal. She is working with the social business creation competition. And then we also have, we've invited Enactus award winners from last year to join us as well. So that would be fun to have a student engaged as well. The third session is set for October with academics, so current research in social entrepreneurship, so that will be coming as well. We don't have to share any more of the slides, but I do want to encourage anyone if they have questions or if they want to have.
You're muted, Debbie.
I hit mute, sorry, thank you. If you want to put in the chat, we can take off the slides. If you have any questions or if anyone wants to unmute and share any of their resources or opportunities that they've come up with that they use that's been working really well for them.
Yeah, we do. I apologize. I thought we were going an hour. We do have a few minutes here. So please, reflections, thoughts, additional things that anybody wants to, spend 30 seconds of shameless self-promotion. We'd love to have them.
Then let me do that then.
Please.
Thank you so much for this past hour. It has been great. It's a pleasure being here. I'm a PhD student also in social entrepreneurship, so I'm looking forward to that session on research as well. And I'm also a local co-instructor of a global course in social entrepreneurship that's organized by the Open Society University Network. And I'll put that in the shared document. I'm glad that we can share resources with each other. That's great. As part of that course, we use an experiential learning platform. So I so much resonate with Jim with the fact that we need to teach people how to do it by them actually being able to do it. So our students from all over the world get together in a global classroom and they work on creating their own social enterprise, solving a problem together across borders on an experiential learning platform. So it's an amazing experience for them, and it's a part of a global certificate in social entrepreneurship that will be launched by OSUN very soon, actually next month. So I will share this resource with you, and if you're interested, then I would love to speak further, and I would love to see you in our global class. So thanks a lot for this opportunity.
Lovely. Thank you. Other thoughts, reflections, additional resources?
Just maybe to add, I would love to make a connection with the social innovation resource that you mentioned. I have a few case studies around ecosystem organizing and organizing for social change. So I would love to add that to that if it helps with the work and sharing resources and passing on knowledge.
You're talking about the page that Nick and Debbie were talking about?
I believe so. I believe so. It was,
Yeah,
yes, that's the one.
that's open source. So anybody on this call or
Happy to.
anybody that knows anybody on this call that's got something they want to throw up onto that site, I think I can speak openly for Debbie and Nick on this point to say, please, please, please
Yep,
share away.
I will definitely do that. And then one more thing, maybe food for conversation in group 2, where we were just talking. There was conversation around what are change makers and the identity. There are 2 more words and concepts that are flowing around right now in social entrepreneurship, social innovation. The other one is change drivers and wave makers. So there's more there to ponder on, I guess, and reflect. Just passing on because we didn't have enough time to finish that wonderful conversation also.
Great labels. Thank you. Yeah, it's, we use a lot of different labels and particularly because what most of us do for a living, we're very fond of putting labels on things and putting boxes on things. And it's sort of like, let's just make more people do this good stuff and we can kind of go from there. Other thoughts, reflections? Key insights, major anxieties. Is anybody nervous after what we threw at you today? Is anybody like, oh my God, my head hurts?
This is Leanne. I got my PhD and then I was working in industry for 2 years and just stepped back into the social entrepreneurship, social innovation space. So this session is so welcome and lots of information. So yeah, there's a bit of overwhelm going on.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure all the slides are going to come out, right, Debbie, that folks can sort of go back and look at and find all the links, and all the links will be on the Social Change Innovators site and all that sort of stuff. So there will be time for reflection and absorption of all that good stuff. And there's the next session there. Thank you, Elon, for that.
Sanjay, do you have a program that you participate on Saturdays? And there are 100 different faculty that go to that session. I just wanted to see if you can talk a little bit about that, because it's a really diverse group of folks.
Yeah, for our Ganpati University session, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Now see, we at the Ganpati University Department of Social Work, the second and fourth Saturday that we are organizing the session on various social issues. It is a Sustainable Development Goals Dialogue Series, right? So this is regular event that we used to organize. So we keep sharing in a catalyzed platform or any platforms, whatever link that you share with us, we keep sharing to you.
Can you share in the chat the link? That would be helpful.
Yeah, sure, I will do that.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you, friends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for being up until midnight in Australia or up at whatever ungodly hour it is on the west coast of the US. We really appreciate it. And more importantly than that, personally, I appreciate every experience that I have where I find that there are other people in the world thinking about and working on and building these innovative solutions. I live in a city with a large amount of deeply entrenched social problems. So I just love the fact that you all are making this happen and making it work and experimenting. So thank you for your work even more than your attendance. Debbie?
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited to share as many resources as we can with all of you. If you want to do deeper dives in systems learning, that systems crash course is great to do with Ashoka. If you want us to put a cohort of people together to do it together, you will learn so much more. There's also a systems practice course that's coming out of the Meteor group in September. So again, if you want to do it in a cohort model, we did it 2 years ago with 5 educators. It was fantastic. We're happy to kind of put a group together as well. So just reach out to us in that Excel sheet or the Google sheet. You can add in if you want to participate in either one of those opportunities. We're happy to connect you with other folks in this space so that we can learn from each other and grow. So happy to share that as well.
Wonderful. Thanks, folks. Peace. Be well, stay safe, have fun.
Take care. Good to see you guys. You can unmute and say bye.